Hello, I'm Richard from Old Tree Bonsai, and we're here today to continue our video series on how to make a bonsai. Today we have a juniper that was selected out of the nursery, and we want to take this shrub and produce a plant that looks like an old awesome tree. So what we're going to do first is we've selected a tree that's very healthy. It has new growth coming out here on the ends. It's very thick, full of vegetative material. And the first thing we want to do after we've selected this and brought it home is we want to get a look at what's inside to see what we can find in here that will make a tree. Now what I want to do here is I want to get this out of the pot first. And what I want to do is just take this and hit down on the pot, and that'll lift the tree slightly up. And then supporting the tree, we should be able to lift the pot and slide it off of the plant. Now that we have this plant out of the pot, we're going to move our hands here inside and get some of this material that's up inside the plant. So if you can see right in here, there's material growing up inside, and we want to feel and try to expose the trunk of that tree and find out. Sometimes we'll find multiple trunks in these trees, or we'll also find that they've put two plants in a pot. Sometimes with this particular plant, you'll even have one of these branches come down and root into the soil, and you might have two trees in here. So dig this out a little bit, and then I want to take this, and in order for this root ball not to dry out, I'm going to place it back into the container. Now I have a little bit of room in there to work with. We can also take some of this excess soil that came off the top and put it down inside the container, and that will help elevate it just a little bit so it's easier to work with. There's growth down inside, and we want to remove some of that so that we'll have a better idea of what the trunk structure or the branch structure is going to be on this plant. Inside the plant, where there's no sunlight, there's growth where the small branches are very long. It's called elongated growth, and what we'd like to see on a bonsai would be smaller, tight growth like this, where there's many buds rather than just one long little branch. This growth down inside is very weak, and so we're going to reach down and try to remove that without moving branches back and forth so much. A lot of this is going to just be from feel, and it does take a little bit of practice to work with this. And the juniper also has needles that they want to bite you. So you got to be a little careful with that, or you might want to wear some nitrile or latex gloves. If I'm working with a lot of these plants, or if there's a lot of dead, dry growth on here, I will wear gloves. You can reach out. This was a very weak branch, although it's quite large. Down inside, very low. Try not to remove that if you can. There's a lot of smaller growth here. And then just start out on individual branches, close to the trunk, and clean that out until you can start getting a little bit better view of what's down inside. So we've cleaned this out a little bit to get down inside, where we can try to determine a little bit of what the plant is looking like, because with that huge shrubbery that we had earlier, it's difficult to tell what kind of a style that we would like to work with. This plant works very well for a cascade style, and so that is an option. That would be a plant that is coming out and over the rim of the pot, or even below the rim of the pot. Another thing we could do would be to try to get a little bit more of this material out so that we can get a better idea. And instead of taking out just these smaller branches that we've been working out close to the trunk, we're going to go in and take out some larger branches at the base of the tree, so that about 1/3 of the trunk line that's coming up, you'll be able to see that. The smaller and more compact we have the tree, the larger that trunk is going to appear when we look at it. As you can see, we've removed a lot of these smaller branches, the weak growth, and we've pulled that away from the plant. Now we want to go in and remove some of the larger branches that aren't necessary for this particular bonsai. We've looked at the plant and determined that we want to move up about 1/3 of the way up the trunk here to expose that so that the trunk will look much wider than it actually is. We're going to use a concave cutter or side branch cutter. This tool is just, if you want to use this, lay your hand down here, put 2 fingers inside, and this can open and close the tool. It may feel a little uncomfortable at first, but you'll get used to it. We're going to now remove lower branches. We're going to put the cutter up against the branch. We'll tighten it and we'll make one quick cut. And we'll remove that. We didn't remove all of this right up by the front because now we can get a better view of what needs to be done. You can also see some smaller root growth that's up high. These are high roots. Those are not necessary for the plant, so we'll remove those with some scissors. And then we'll have a better view of the cut, and we'll make a final cut up next to the trunk. If we want to, we can come back and make another cut and make sure that that's nice and clean. There are a couple other branches that are low, and I can't see those inside. So again, I'm going to just make sure that I cut off a portion of that plant, leaving a stub, and make sure that the concave cutter is not cutting another branch while you're doing this, or cutting into the trunk. It's very easy to do that. So we'll make another quick cut. We'll take that branch out. And then there's another plant over here. Another branch, I'm sorry. And we'll take a quick cut of that and also bring it out. We can come back later and make some other cuts to clean those up. We'll now use the scissors and take out this weak branches. They're small branches. They'll be weak. They're not going to have much growth down inside. They'll have elongated or longer growth right here rather than this fine growth out on the end. So we'll cut off those branches. You can leave cut some of them in there. You can see all of these branches have a little bit of no growth down inside, although that's a nice and healthy branch. Now we can get a better idea of the trunk structure, and we can move on from there. If you have branches that are close to the soil level down here, it's better to use scissors than your concave cutters to make the cut, because the soil can damage your tool. So you want to use a scissor. The reason you do that is because it's much easier to sharpen the scissor than it is a concave cutter. So earlier today we brought this plant in from the nursery. It looked a little bit more like this. We removed weak growth down inside. Then we removed some lower branches that were close to the ground, exposing the trunk line of this tree and some of the framework as far as the larger branches are concerned. In our next episode, we'll choose a style to work with this tree. We'll remove more of the branches and prepare the plant for wiring. Thank you very much for watching our videos.